How do you come out to get your sort of full deck of characters?
We usually come up with a list that's like 80% of what we ended up being. As we write the story, we have these very detailed kind of cinematic stories that we do. The writers need characters that they can a certain amount of villains, certain amount of heroes, and we want to be able to accommodate that. And DC also joins the conversation, and then of course the passionate players who really let their points be heard on Twitter and social media.
And through the mailbox and shouting outside your house, I'm sure, and everything. We're having a look at some gameplay right here. Gorilla Grodd already going at it.
Yes, two of the new additions to our roster. Gorilla Grodd, who's the villain of the Flash, and Atrocitus, who is kind of like a big, angry, bloody Red Lantern, kind of almost like the opposite of Green Lantern. Who's Atrocitus is kind of like an anti-hero, but he's got a lot of anger issues. And but they're so far two of our big brawler characters. Grodd's kind of interesting in that he has these kind of big gorilla ape moves, but he also has kind of telekinetic moves, which is like kind of like a Kenshi or an Ermac or something like that. It's a great combination of the two.
We'll talk about the gear system in a second, but how is the fighting developed? Is it very much similar to Injustice, the first one we played 2 years ago?
The groundwork is Injustice. I mean, we're with every game we try to add layers for players to kind of learn and master. Like a lot of these. The fighting game tournaments, the hardcore guys, we're really into the whole esports thing. We've been doing with Mortal Kombat X, and in the first Injustice, we've been participating pretty heavily into the tournament scene, and so we've added a number of kind of like lower level stuff that some players may never quite experience, but the hardcore guys who really want to dig deep can really devour.
Talk to us a little bit about the gear system. So how does this work? Is it just like unlocks? Is it purely aesthetic?
Sure. It's gear, and probably in the simplest of terms, I would describe gear as costume pieces that actually power up your character. So when you finish a fight, we're going to have these drops where basically, and the victory screen also rewards you with this gear, and you have the choice of equipping your character with that gear or not. And so there's a molding, so to speak, of as you keep getting gear, you keep deciding if you want to use it, and you want to focus on offense or defense or enhance certain moves or unlock certain moves, and you'll see here that the gear is being rewarded. And the player has the opportunity to equip their character with that gear right away, or to kind of save it in a like a
vault or
exactly, and then they can equip their player for certain missions or something like that if they really want to beef up their defense or offense or enhance this one move or something like that. And that kind of customization really results in visually and gameplay wise, it's your Grodd, it's your Superman, your Batman, your Aquaman, and that's really the kind of foundation of what we're building our main gameplay around.
Go for it, babe.
I've got a question. Who is this rocket-powered cat that keeps flying in from
Atrocitus? He is also, Atrocitus is a Red Lantern. There's a whole spectrum of colors, and he is actually another Red Lantern. His name is Dexstar. It's part of the DC lore, and they're kind of they kind of work together. And so we incorporated him into the fighting. He shoots projectiles.
Oh yeah, look.
He does all these.
Oh man,
he's adorable.
He is.
And then, and we have a.
You're speaking to a good crowd here as well. Two of us are cat lovers.
Yeah, and so it's awesome. People who know the Atrocitus, kind of backstory and lore will really appreciate his cameo there.
How is the gear stuff going to play into what you were talking about earlier with esports? Are you going to lock that stuff out? Is it,
Yeah, well, certainly, with the gameplay changes are you're going to have a significantly more powerful version of Superman after you've been, gearing him up and leveling him up. So we will obviously have something to level things out for things like tournaments and whatnot, because you don't want to have, somebody coming in with a level 50 Superman against a level 1 Batman or something like that. But we certainly have plans to do like a more level playing field version.
DC are also keeping pretty busy on their own media front. The development of Batman versus Superman, has that affected your development at all, or like even Supergirl, like what they're doing there? Has any of that sort of bled into what you're doing in Injustice?
No. I mean, a lot of what we do is kind of we draw inspiration from the comics and the movies, and the animated shows is a really big one too. But pretty much the development of our stuff is independent of the movies and all that.
Yeah. And it must be fun, I guess. Second time around, there's probably a bit more trust there as well. They've seen what you've done. Like previously, it was like, okay, these crazy Mortal Kombat devs are going to take our DC characters and make them rip each other's throats out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when we were pitching the first game, one of the things I would always say is like, we have no intention of tearing Batman's head off. We have no intention of doing anything, Mortal Kombat like. Our studio is filled with, superhero fans, and so we just love this kind of stuff. With some of the moves we come up with are drawn on inspiration on something we might have seen in the animated series or something like that, and so we love these kind of nods to the stuff. Anybody who's a fan of these characters, you're really going to see how much we love the characters too.
Peter, I know you're a massive Mortal Kombat fan as well. 8 out of 10 on GameSpot. We gave Mortal Kombat X.
We did, yes,
last year.
Yeah, and actually, I'm very curious. I understand the different series, obviously, but what did developing Mortal Kombat X, and then the reception that followed, how did that inform your approach to Injustice 2, if at all? I have to imagine there's some sort of
after every game, we can kind of take a step back and kind of, ask ourselves, what resonated with people, what could we have done better, and we always kind of accumulate that stuff and put it into it. One of the things that we've always wanted to do, as a studio, what we're always kind of moving towards is allowing the player to have more control over their character. And so, with Mortal Kombat X, we were like, okay, we're going to make 3 versions of these characters.
Right.
You get to choose which one you like. They have differences in terms of their style of gameplay, letting them select it. Now we're kind of like taking the next step of saying, okay, these variables that we're messing with, we're going to give you access to these variables and let you change things around. And then that kind of inspired like the leveling things up. And so this is really like a overall big picture direction that we're going with fighting games. We really feel like, the more customization and things that players feel like they're involved in growing of these characters, the more, it's just a more fun experience.
Does the gear system purely work within the limits of the game, or is there a microtransactions element to that as well?
No, well, we haven't. Honestly, we're really just getting the whole system up and ready. But we haven't really had any discussions about like microtransactions and whatnot. I think big picture wise, we really want an experience that is just long lasting. We just want somebody to, like, when you start playing your game, your Supergirl is just a completely different character than what it ends up being gameplay wise and visually. It's not a creative character thing. We definitely don't want to like give the impression like we're changing the nose shape and doing all these kind of things like that. But as far as like the way you want your character to play, it is still fundamentally Supergirl, but it is you controlling the variables that we're exposing to you.
You guys have got a sort of a great little staple of games that people are enjoying in terms of fighting games. You've got the Mortal Kombat series, which has come to life in the past 5 years again. You've got Injustice. Are you guys sort of locked into those now on a biannual cycle?
It's been that way so far, but I don't think we've had like this kind of big picture plan that's just how it's kind of worked out. It's interesting, with Mortal Kombat X, we've had the most downloadable characters, Pretty recently, we introduced, Alien and Leatherface and all that stuff. And so
Cyborg.
Exactly. And those have been featured in, like, we just had the ESL tournament this last Saturday. It was like $200,000 in prizes. And I was there, and it was the first time that I was like, we were talking about Mortal Kombat, and then Injustice has since been introduced, so I was bouncing between the two games. But I think as we continue to support these games for a longer period of time, that may affect, the release of the next game. Just because we really want the games just to be a longer lasting experience. new content coming.
Is there going to be a really large, robust story mode like we saw in Mortal Kombat?
Yes, absolutely. You know, every game we really try to kind of up the previous ones as far as like that whole cinematic presentation, and then it sets up the fight, and then the player participates with that. We're adding some really cool twists that we're gonna probably towards the end of the year we'll be talking a little bit more about the story mode and some of the changes we're making to it. But it is going to have that really, you know, that big cinematic experience.
And are all these sort of like story details therein concocted by your team, or are they pulled directly from the comics and the animated?
Well, it is from this universe that I guess we kind of you know, created. You know, DC it's awesome how they have the multiverse.
Yeah.
So we can say, okay, in our version
Sure,
of the
right.
multiverse, Superman's this dictator,
Right.
Batman's taking him down, you know, Superman kills Shazam, and all of these things, and that has kind of spawned this just in order to release a game that has more characters like that, we have to do a we have to continue working on it. It's like a long process after the game is launched.
All right. And we have some more gear here. What type of gear are we looking at?
Oh,
Chest
this is like,
plates, crowns.
Yeah, Kryptonian crown. Superman. There's like this headgear that that actually represents one of the looks that he has in our stories. Like, you know, he's a little bit more of a dictator. And so we have elements that let you kind of craft Superman that looks like that. You know, we have a chest that is the Red Sun Superman. You can, you know, equip your guy with that and have him look like that. So you notice that Superman's wearing it now, and so, you know, that enhances. You know, you can do things like, you know, have a little bit more damage with environment, or a little bit more blocking damage, or enhance a certain special move. You can unlock a special move. It's really, you know, like I said, it really gets customized.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you